Hello, today we are having a look at the Black Square Steam Gauge add-on for the Caravan in Microsoft Flight Simulator. So this just came out, it's available from Just Flight. It's £21 UK, so I guess that's about $25 or 25 euros. And it completely transforms the Caravan and puts steam gauges inside it and an awful lot of other extras as well. So if we just go back to the normal view and have a look around inside the cockpit, you can see it's got all kinds of integrations built in. And interestingly, if we go and have a look behind the co-pilot's yoke, you can see you can choose the avionics suite that you want to have in the aircraft. So at the flick of a switch, we can completely change the loadout, which I think is fantastic. So I've got the PMS GTN 750 installed, the free one, and that puts that in place. You can change Nav2 as well. It's absolutely fantastic. So let's go and get it started up and see these gauges in action. I think this transforms the Caravan, which was already a very good aircraft in Flight Sim, but I've never been a fan of the G1000. And even with the the NXI version of the G1000, which is going to become the standard in Sim Update 10, I still massively prefer steam gauges. The interesting thing about these is they are exact replicas of the real world versions. So, when you have a look around it, if we go and have a look in the documentation that comes with it, it's a really nice guide as well, actually. If you look through the PDF that comes with it, and you can see the exact models of instrument that have been simulated with all sorts of notes about their behavior. So it's really, really good. So if you are using this as a study aid, it suddenly becomes a whole different ball game. Okay, so let's go and get the Caravan started up. This is a trip down memory lane for me because I haven't flown it for ages. So we turn the batteries on and you can see power went straight to some of the avionics. And we can turn on the other avionics switches, so we'll start to get a boot up procedure happening on the GTN 750 over there. Weather radar appears to work, which was a surprise to me. Obviously there's not much weather to see around in the local area, but okay, so we want to go and turn on some lights because we're going to start the engines, so we'll go and turn everything on. We're not going to worry about blinding people with our strobe lights. We'll turn the actually no, we don't need the landing lights or anything on, do we? We're here on our own at Wickham Air Park, so okay, so we've got the battery on, we've got the generator on, we've got the fuel boost to normal. We're going to go ignition to on. And just before we do start the engines, let's go and look overhead, make sure we've opened the valves to the fuel tanks. We're not going to need oxygen today, we're only going to a very low altitude. So let's go and hit the starter and see what happens. So you will see straight away we've got an absolute raft of gauges that we didn't have before, which is really cool. Or they're much more accurate. So you've got torque, propeller RPM, you interstage temperature, I think that is, which is the gas temperature inside the gas turbine, because this is a turboprop. Then you've got the RPM, then you've got oil temperature and PSI, fuel flow, and the fuel for the two tanks. So obviously the fuel is in the wings in a Caravan, so fuel is on each side. Okay, so things are coming up to speed. You've got some really nice stuff around the cockpit, which is obviously great to have. Okay, the engines haven't spooled up. The reason for that is I haven't introduced fuel. That would help. We'll put the propeller forwards as well. So again, I'm not following proper procedures before anybody hangs me out to dry over it. This is really, really cool. All the switches and everything work, so there's going to be some reading to do around new procedures. And if we go and actually look in the checklists, there's now lots and lots and lots and lots of them, which is fantastic. So if you want to really do some proper reading about proper procedures and practicing real world procedures, then there you go. So the electrical systems have been simulated, so you can simulate electrical fires and things like that, having things going dead around the cockpit. You've got lots of indicators that light up, so for the autopilot, for example. And yeah, it's absolutely brilliant. And obviously a lot of the breakout or breakers now work, which they didn't before. So it has absolutely transformed the Caravan into a study level aeroplane. So obviously I'm only scratching the surface here today, but this is going to be great fun, and there's going to be, you know, a lot to learn here. Okay, yeah, so everything works, and I massively prefer steam gauges. So let's put the yoke back on. Let's remove the parking brake, go to takeoff flaps, open the engine. Oops, I've just gone and accidentally cut the engine. I think we're still good. I didn't have my levers configured correctly in the cockpit. Okay, so we're going to taxi out to runway 24 at Wickham Air Park and take the Caravan for a fly just to see the gauges in action. So yeah, this is the Black Square steam gauge add-on for the Caravan. It actually creates a separate aircraft in the aircraft list in Flight Simulator, so you can still fly the original one if you want. So let's go full throttle. Now I have to try and remember how to fly the Caravan. So we're airborne, flaps up. I've actually turned the weather to scattered cloud because, or broken cloud I think it's called, because the weather today over Wickham was horrendous. I didn't fancy doing a review of the steam gauges while also battling with the elements. But you can see they are very, very smooth and they are very accurate. It's very cool, isn't it? So we're just going to turn around towards 60 degrees. I didn't calibrate the altimeter, so I'll do that now. The message will just be telling us on the GTN 750 that we haven't configured a departure and destination for our flight plan, so we don't need to really worry about that. Okay, so obviously we can fly by instruments, and we've got lovely instruments to use now. So I'm just trimming us out to go in a straight line. Engines at 50%. Just cruising along, 120 knots. Doesn't it make a world of difference being able to see all these gauges properly? Absolutely fantastic. Obviously we've got the GTN 750 here as well, but we can flick between the other solutions as well. So you can refit the cockpit in flight, which I think is great fun. Okay, let's not get too high. It's always easy to forget how quickly this Caravan can climb. Something that's really interesting as well, since the various updates have happened to the sim, and I think this augments it as well. Let's go and pull the throttle, the propeller back to feather and watch what happens. So we'll sit up so we get to see this nicely. I thought it might actually completely kill it doing that, but I thought we might be able to roll it to a stop. See what the stall characteristics are like as well. I've not flown the Caravan for such a long time. It looks very stable. Yeah, it's just going to drop a wing. So obviously we need to be careful about speed. That's fine. There we go. So the propeller is almost stopping. Okay, so let's speed that propeller back up. That is an interesting one though. On the flight back in, the runway's just over here. On the flight back in, let's just go and pull this back again with the engine on completely on idle. Obviously this is not advisable, but we're just going to let the prop come to a stop, if it will. How fantastic is that, look? So let's speed it back up and introduce some throttle to get some airspeed before we start to stall. But how cool is this though? A Caravan with full steam gauges and configurable radio stack. It's brilliant. I left the starter on, didn't I? That was a bit naughty. You will get failures in this, which is, I think, what I've just caused. Which is great. Okay, so we're just going to gently bring the plane back in, nurse it home after causing it all kinds of damage. Let's go for flaps. The amount of lift this thing generates is just crazy. Let's just see if we can side slip as well, and we can. Very, very unconventional landing. But the short field performance on the Caravan is such that we can get away with just about anything. I'd forgotten how much I missed flying this actually. It's great fun. So let's just taxi back. Flaps back up. But how cool is this though, to have all the proper instruments and have the 6 back in front of you, have all the engine gauges there, and to be able to switch the avionics out at the drop of a hat. And obviously all the electrics are simulated now, so you can practice proper failures, you know, if that's what you want to do, if it's something you're studying. It's absolutely brilliant. So it's £21 for the Black Square steam gauge modification for the Caravan from Just Flight. Obviously outside the plane is completely unchanged, because this just changes the internal workings, and they promise apparently that it will work with existing liveries. So let's bring this in. Parking brake on. So you can let us change the, there we go, oops. I always forget how the controls work between the different airplanes because I fly too many things too often, I guess. So we can turn the avionics off, we can turn the starter off, ignition to norm, fuel pump off, generator is fine, batteries off. And we're going cold and dark. I'm not sure if they fixed anything to do with the doors working or anything like that. I very much doubt it, no. The actual shell of the aircraft is unchanged. So anything that did work before will obviously still work. But what they've changed is the entire contents, basically, of the working area of the cockpit. and I think they've made an enormous improvement to everything about it. So it suddenly becomes a busy aircraft with lots to do, which is absolutely fantastic. So obviously, you've got the various different radio stacks you can learn, all the different gauges, different autopilot modes, and the alerts that might come up for warnings. I think it's fantastic, and it gives so much more depth to the aircraft. Anyway, I'm going to stop waffling on about it. Go and have a look at Just Flight. Go and read some reviews, and decide if you like the Caravan. This improves the Caravan enormously. Okay, I'm going to say goodbye there.